participants who have signed up from over 16 countries, all over Europe and as far away as Singapore and Argentina. So very, very good morning to all those of you who are joining us from different time zones. And thank you for coming to Open Studios. This is a continuation of a project that we started this time last year. We, under the umbrella of a Sustainable Makers Assembly, we organized again an online event similar to this, which took place over 3 days, excuse me. And thanks to that success, we thought it would be a good idea to continue on and repeat the exercise this year. So thanks very much for joining us. Just very briefly before I hand over to Zoe Powell Best, who's going to be able to explain much better than I what's on the cards for this morning. Open Studios is part of a British Council program called Circular Cultures, which is the European arm of a global program called Making Matters. And what we do with this program is basically address sustainable design and creative economies, and aiming to promote greater awareness around circularity and sustainability. Sorry about reading that, but I knew that if I didn't, I probably would get all mixed up. So anyway. And so before I hand over to Zoe, I'd like to introduce you to her. Zoe is the co-curator of this program, and we were lucky enough to work with her this time last year. She's a materials researcher. She's a multidisciplinary design maker and workshop facilitator. And since 2008, she has worked on research and community-driven projects internationally for a variety of industries. And the focus of her work is centered along creatively using resources, circular design strategies, and production techniques that are both digital and handcrafted. Zoe will be leading today's session and the other two sessions that, as you know, are programmed over the next few weeks on the 7th and the 21st of February. So you're going to have lots of opportunities to get to know Zoe a bit better. So finally, before I hand over to her, I also just wanted to flag up a program that I think may be of interest to many of you. Many of you probably already know it. It's the Worth Partnership Project. This is a European funded program, which is basically looking for projects. It's an incubation program, excuse me, for creative partnerships between designers, manufacturers, and tech providers in the industries of footwear, leather, fur, textile, furniture, and home decoration. Sorry about that garbled information. I'm going to put a website address up on the chat. Basically, Worth Partnership has currently an open call open until the 15th of February. So if you're interested in signing up and finding more about it, have a look at their website. And I think that's enough for me right now. So Zoe, over to you. Thanks very much.
Oh, thank you, Christina. And, thank you everyone for joining in. I'm really also loving seeing, chat starting now and telling us where you are and who's joining. Hi, Geeta. Yeah, it's really great to be involved again this year after the Sustainable Makers Assembly last year. Yeah, I think we just to kind of introduce some of the faces that you're seeing maybe on screen as icons are team members. Along with Christina, we have Anna as well, who's in the British Council Spain, and we have Cristiana and Katinka as well from Romania, British Council Romania, and then you have our speakers who you'll be seeing in this session. And so I guess we'll kick off first with our first speaker, which is Sandra Junele, or Junele, as I love to say. So yeah, we're ready for you. And Cristiano, do you want to share the screen, or Sandra, are you going to go ahead?
Yeah, I will share the screen.
Perfect.
Yeah, so here we go. Can you all see it? Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you. Wonderful.
So hello, my name is Sandra and I'm originally from Latvia, but I moved to Scotland 8 years ago, and Now it's my home here. I'm also a fresh graduate. I graduated 6 months ago, and in this short period of time, managed to win 3 awards, exhibited at the gallery, participated in craft fairs and art fairs, had a chance to work with the big companies like Hallmark, got a studio, and opened my own business. And here I am now, sharing my experience with you. Well, thank you very much for your time and for this opportunity. So how did I ended up here? Let's go back in time. They were saying my family has golden hands. I grew up surrounded by creatives and makers. My granddad on the left, he was making things out of scrap materials. On the right photo of my grandfather, who was a photographer. And it's not only about the grandparents. My parents as well were creative. If we couldn't afford something, we just made it out of things that were around us. It is something that naturally integrated into me. That's little me. And my room was a playground. I was allowed to do whatever I want. As a kid, I went to kids art school, and then after I enrolled to the college to do my interior design. And after 4 years of studies, I sat down with my diploma in the hand and being totally honest to myself, realized, like, look, this is not what I want to do. I'm a maker. I love to make things by my own hands, not sitting in front of the computer, calculating and do those 3D models. Sorry, you can find out about that period of my time and my Instagram profile. And yeah, so in that period of time, I was very lost. I couldn't find anything that would interest me in Latvia. So I decided to move to Scotland. Well, without any English knowledge. How bad it was, I didn't know what spoon or a fork is. I couldn't even buy a ticket in the bus. It took me 3 years to get into the university. 2 of them I learned English and 1 in college. So university, the course called General Foundation. There you had the opportunity to try yourself in different disciplines like graphic design, jewelry, textiles, fine art. It was perfect for me because I didn't know where to go anyways. Through the whole year, I worked unintentionally with waste. I used those materials to make jewelry, but mostly applied on textiles and surfaces. It's funny now, but back then I had no idea what word recycling or sustainability is. So it was the middle of third year when I worked at the disposal company where I saw this every single day. Piles and piles of things. Some of them haven't even opened from the day of purchase. And all of it had to go to the landfill. Imagine all of it. And I had a mix of emotions like disappointment, anger. I was frustrated that people just throw away valuable items. That's not the way it should be. I wanted to scream and share this story. The best way for me to do so is through art. This cape was designed for Mary Kwan's exhibition in V&A based on pictures of waste. Later, I started to introduce sustainability and recycling in my practice. Here is a coat made out of old fabric samples. So I tried to use waste in a way that no one would really realize that it's a waste at the end of the product. So final year in uni, pandemic happened. No access to the studios, closed workshops, chaos, not only in the studies, but in personal life. Just give me a second. And this time I've spent on exploring myself. I started to question myself, who am I, what I want to do. And that year I had a couple of interior projects, event decor, and even in those projects I used waste. It was always like coming back to recycling, upcycling, and sustainability. So coming back into uni, I had a clear focus. I want to work with waste. In our knit studios, we had lots of yarn waste. I did hundreds and hundreds of experimentations. I tried different material combinations, flocking, laser cut, resin, molding, stitching, needle felting, and many more. And none of those actually worked until one day, sitting in front of my desk, I saw PVA glue, decided to cut some yarn and mix it together, let it dry, and ended up with this on the left corner sample. As sustainability was a core of this project, I started to research alternative plant-based glue recipes. Here are the very first samples using this glue. And what's great about this glue, it dissolves in water. At the end of the presentation, I will demonstrate it. It took 9 months to perfect the recipe. When it comes to molding, I've tried different molding solutions. The best option for me was to use cardboard. It can be recycled. It can be easily shaped in almost any form, and it's free. Okay, it's all transformed into a product with 4 main features. It's a fusion of sustainability, functionality, aesthetics, and human experience. So waste was transformed into modular wall panels. Here on the right picture, you can see 9 different pieces. And what's great about it, you can rotate it, you can make different compositions, you can use it as a rectangle, a group of 6, 4, or 3, or use each panel as an individual piece of art. And it is also functional. It has sound absorbent properties as well as insulation when designed at the right scale for the right room. So when it comes to samples, these are my sample pieces. I've designed them into smaller pieces of art, so nothing goes to waste. And it's all about communicating new attitudes and ideas through art. It's not about the final product, it's about the whole journey itself. And all this journey I share on my social media. How to make things yourself, how to use tools, where to find materials, where I'm getting my materials from. I'm trying to keep the business as transparent as much as I can. On my social media, I share fails and successes. Like, for example, I've attended 2 markets so far. First, on the left, 0 sales. And on the right, I learned everything on that market. So on the right, 80% of stock was sold. Do you want to know how I did it? Well, find the post on social media. The great marketing. And I'm always open for trying new things. Therefore, here is a little sneak peek of my next project, which you will be able to track on social media from Sunday, 29th of January. It's a collaboration with the artist who used horse hooves for her jewelry. It's 100% ethical. Okay, nothing to worry about. Everyone is safe. And we are going to try and combine my materials and her horse hoof and release limited edition jewelry. Yeah, let's see where it works. That's my presentation, and now I would like to show you how do I do this. Oh dear.
Are you trying to stop sharing the screen?
Yeah.
I think it's just a little X.
Oh, here we go.
There we go.
Can you all see me?
Yeah.
Yeah, so this is something I made. So there is a mold which can be taken out. Okay, so we have 2 separate parts. This can be recycled or reused again. And the samples or the things which never worked for me, it can be easily broken back down. And when I put it in the water, the glue dissolves. Right, here we go. And I am left with the fibers, which then I can reuse again, and again. So far, I've managed to save 26 kilograms of yarn waste going to the landfill, and looking forward to save more. Thank you very much for your time. And that's me.
That's amazing, and Sandra, thank you so much. It's just so fascinating. And when I first saw your work, actually it was via one of your old tutors, Martha Glazard, and who's a wonderful knitter. And you know, we have had, her and I had lots of discussions about what to do with textile waste, you know, the constant, you know, production of different samples, especially throughout the education process. And yeah, your work really stood out. And I think one of the things that we discussed and you know, within your work is the sort of where the origin of the waste is coming from. For example, I know that, and if you can talk a little bit more about the wool waste, because the yarn waste is actually natural wool, isn't it? It's all natural. And how is that important to you, that you use the natural materials in your work?
Well, look, what is fascinating about working with natural materials, that even if my product ended up in the landfill, there will be no harm.
Yeah.
And that's important for me. Like, I think nowadays for the designers, they need to think where your product will be in the future, because yeah.
It's amazing, because it made me think, well, you know, when you're in that development stage as a student, you know, you kind of get access to so many things that you can't really hold back, maybe, that you know, you want to say, I will use everything and combine everything, but almost giving yourself some restrictions, giving yourself like a narrower view, saying I'll only use natural materials, I'll only use things that can eventually you know, compost and degrade safely, is like a really big part of your work. And so, you know, you showed some pictures of the kind of waste and being around waste, especially the, you know, the collection of the different kind of, so many different objects. What do you like about working with cardboard? Because I've seen so many people work with paper fibers and making their own paper and trying these different things. What is it about you know, the paper pulp and the cellulose, the plant-based materials that you enjoy?
So what is about, I really like to work with the cardboard. It's so easy. As I said, it's free. It's a free material, and it can be shaped in any form, and it doesn't like require like any specific like anything specific. You just need a pair of scissors and a knife, and that's it. And yeah, it works.
So it's like the accessibility of it as well.
Yeah.
And have you found any materials that are a bit more that you would have liked to work with, but maybe they're more difficult to get access to? That's one question. I guess another question that I had is the difference between your experience of being at a design school and in an environment in Latvia versus Scotland. That's the second question.
Okay, answering to your first question, I tend to work with what I have. If I don't have it, I don't even think of it. Why to stress myself and think about things what I don't have? It was always coming back and create something what is already there. And comparing to experience my studies in Latvia and in Scotland, it's different. So in Latvia, for example, we never had the things like sketchbooks and things like that. So this was something new for me to learn here. And it's more freedom in Scotland. They allow you to be yourself. And even here in university, what I really love, they didn't force me to do textiles for like fashion, for example, jumpers or something like that. They just allowed me to explore and be myself here. So yeah, they trust you. Yeah, the tutors trust you.
I think it's so interesting that I think it's especially for me, you know, as a designer, just imagining not having a focus on sketchbooks. The UK education system is sort of like, where's your sketchbook? Show me your sketchbook. I need to see a sketchbook right now before you can even, you know, propose anything. So I think it's so interesting, almost like not having it. And I think you mentioned sort of having more like loose papers and things.
Yeah.
As well as being in, you know, sort of like different education system, that means in terms of storage as well, it's just a completely different way of storing things, and that kind of makes me think of another question I have, because behind you you've got you know, your artworks behind you, and you've got the shelves as well.
Yeah.
And how do you actually fix your pieces onto the wall? Is it a frame and then it's pinned? What's your
Yeah, so I can show you.
Great.
So this is a wee sample. I made a frames out of wood, and you can see there is a little gap. So it's very easy to install. You just pin 2 nails or whatever you have, and you just hang it up. Yeah.
That's it works really well, and because I love that in terms of your work, it's modular, and the whole it's modular in the pieces, and I imagine them having, and I don't know if you've tested it, some kind of acoustic properties, because of obviously the sound will bounce off the materials that your pieces are made of, but also the fact that the process is very modular, that you can take it apart and you can put it back together. It really lends itself to this what I would consider a kind of a regenerative practice, you know, in terms of circular economy and circular design. It is really, you know, fitting into that area. And I guess that makes me think about where you're going in the future. And I know you mentioned you're doing a collaboration with a jewelry designer who uses horse hooves. And so I think we should, like, because I remember you telling me this, and I think it's so interesting, the hoof, or the, you know, like the nail of a horse, but that's through their natural trimming, isn't it? It's not, and I think because they were traditionally used for things like glue making and other stuff, but this is a kind of manicure of a horse, which connects in such an interesting way to the natural world that I didn't expect.
Yeah, this is something what haven't done before. And yeah, horse hoof is trimmed every 6 weeks anyways. So you will have that waste over there. And yeah, what's fascinating about that jewelry designer, yeah, this is something I haven't done before. And I'm so glad that I met her. It was at the market. We had our stalls next to each other, and let's just collaborate. Yeah, let's try.
And so does she have the horses then? Is that her? Yeah.
Yeah, she has her own horse. It's Monica, and this Sunday I'm going to see Monica, introduce myself to her. And yeah, let's see where it all goes. I'm very excited, because at the beginning I wanted to be a jewelry designer, but yeah, now I have a chance to try myself out in jewelry.
I think it's amazing, because I think that's one of the things that we forget about often, is the collaborative side. You know, being able to say you're collaborating with nature in one sense because of the choices of materials that you're using, but also working with out of your comfort zone, I suppose, as well, and saying, okay, I would have never chosen to use like horse hooves, that you know, didn't think about it, but the fact that then through your experiences and through your processes you've come across wool, and then through, you know, the waste you've come across the cardboard waste, and that sort of, you know, a progression. Is there any are there any kind of things that you really want to in the future, you know, or people you'd like to work with in the future, or, you know, projects that you're kind of planning maybe?
So in the middle of February, I'm going to London to an arts fair to present my designs to a wider audience. And you know, I'm always like happy to try something new. If I done, like, for example, this design, like, that's it. I will put it on the side. I don't want to come it back. I want something new. And yeah, that's the thing about me. It's always try something new, something different. And I love it. Yeah.
It's so interesting to hear, because with the, thinking about like a long-term legacy, I think traditionally most people would have thought, oh, if I'm creating more new pieces every single time, you think about fast fashion, you think new pieces, new products coming out, let's say, you think, oh my gosh, that's a lot of waste. But because you're essentially combating that from the start, you being able to express yourself creatively has a different meaning, really. And I just wondered how you'd kind of encourage, what you would say to others who are maybe struggling with starting and jumping into that new step and just wanted to, get out there and create something. Would you give anyone any advice?
Take it as a game. Don't stress yourself out.
Yeah.
Just go and do it, because when you are not focused like, oh, I need to make something, but just take it as a playful manner, and it will always lead you to something beautiful. Yeah. Like without any plans and things like that. Just explore. Really explore. Yeah.
I think that's really good advice. And I think, if you're already starting off with the position of what your materials are, and you know the impact they're going to have, and that, the legacy of using those materials are really, that they can break down, and they can compost, and they can be, they can work within the environment, that having that playfulness and being able to do that really works. I actually wanted to open up to see if anyone has any questions from the audience. You can type in the chat, and I can read it out. Please do feel free to ask any questions. But while we see some questions coming through, what's the art fair that you're taking part in?
It's called Parallax Art Fair.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm super excited because there will be some pieces which I haven't showed before. There will be something new, and yeah, I'm very excited.
And because one of the questions that I was thinking about before, and I sort of, with this theme of the events being circular open studios, how has the studios impacted, your work? Because having a space to work in, I've personally found makes a difference, even if you have to adapt it, and no matter whether it's big or small. How have you found that? Because you were a graduate, you're a very recent graduate, and this is a change.
Yeah, so before I was working from my home, and what I found out, that I'm working from the morning until night. The moment I wake up, my work is around me, and I can't stop myself go and do things. So at some moment I was like super exhausted. I was like, I can't continue in this way. Like if I will continue, I will just burn myself out. And yeah, having a studio and having that work and free time, it made a big difference in my productivity as well. So coming into the studio and I have all these things gathered around me, it inspires.
Yeah.
And yeah, having a studio, yeah, it's amazing.
It feels really lucky as well. And I think, it's one of those things where you find, maybe you cross paths with other people at your studio, because I think you like either got it through a grant, or maybe you're renting it, which you can tell us about. But do you have any other support at your studio, which you're finding useful as a new designer, as a young designer?
Yeah, so I was very lucky to get the studio, and it's a charity-based organization who is giving studios to young entrepreneurs. So if you are 18 to 30, you are able to get the studio and the lower rate. And what's also great, you are getting help in a sense, like here I am, new business, no idea what to go over, like all these things.
Yeah.
And here there is always someone you can ask question. you can get some business coach, which will lead you through your journey. And what else I wanted? So yeah, the another thing what I really like about this space, that you are surrounded by other young businesses. So you are all in the same boat, going through the challenges, and you can always knock to another person's studio and just let yourself speak out.
Yeah. No, and I think that's really good. And I think in terms of like, because people see studios in such different ways, and I think it was for me really important for you to, just tell us about your experience of that. And if you're, if you, for anyone else who's on the chats, if you are, and anyone else who's joining us today, look and see what other charities there are, what other communities, and we have Sandra's an advocate for it, and I think it's a really good thing to kind of reach out and see who's doing what in your area, what organizations that can support you as an emerging designer. We have a couple of questions.
I just wanted to add that as a young business owner, like there is so much help out there. There is so many people who are willing to help you and want you to grow. You just need to know where to find that help.
Yeah.
But yeah, there is help. There is always someone out there. Always.
That's really good. Oh, that's really good. And I think, like I said, it's important for you, to for other people to be encouraged to do that and to find that those opportunities. And I think you can start small. You can talk to like maybe friends locally, and then do through your own research and do some researches. We have a question from Marta Vinas, but I'm pronouncing that correctly. Her question is, what kind of material do you use to unite and solidify the fibers? So I know, we had discussions. You mentioned PVA, and I know from doing some biopolymer research that you can use those as binders. But go ahead.
So I'm cooking my own glue instead of the soup, okay? So this glue is made out of, it's a plant-based glue. It's vegan, vegetarian, and the main material is flour. And then I'm adding other different things. I don't tend to share this recipe because it took me a long time to perfect it. But if you're really interested, there is a sources out there on the internet which you can find very similar very similar like recipe of that glue.
Yeah, I mean it's there's quite a few places if you look for glue making or homemade glue, or as I mentioned, sort of like biopolymers and bioplastics. These are kind of the binders, and so there's a few that I can share. Instructables is a good one. Materium.org is a good one for exploring the use of natural fibers. And so that's really good. And I think it's also important to say that if you have worked for something for so long, maybe you don't want to share it straight away, and it's part of your process, and that's your research, and you have the right to to use it as you need to and see fit. We have another couple of other questions that have come through. So how do you find the textiles that are sustainable, and how can they be used kind of like within fashion? I guess this question is a bit more about the specific textiles. So the fibers that you're using, where are they coming from, and how do you see it in terms of the sustainability practices?
Okay, I will mention you can answer to this question on my social media, because just yesterday I've collected a yarn waste, and it's actually from local manufacturer, and they are using 100% wool, and all the waste they generate and their manufacturers I collected. So I've installed a bin which are made out of paper, and every single bit they just throw it on that bin. So perhaps like every single month I'm going there and collecting that waste. I'm like I have just some behind me.
Oh wow! See, that's a thing. I think that's, you know, it puts you in a position where you're doing a combination of things. Really, you're collaborating with local producers, but you've also helped them. You haven't just said, "Oh, can you put it in a bag?" and let them, you know, say, you know, choose your own bag, choose where you put it. You know, give me this, give me whatever you have. You're saying specifically wool waste. You know, you've given them a bin to actually, a rubbish bin to put it in. And I think that really makes a difference when, you know, trying to build these collaborations. So that's,
Well,
I see, for me personally, I mean, maybe it's answering the question a little bit as well, is that is a way to build a sustainable relationship, you know, with your community, with local producers.
yeah, and what's also important to me is to share the names and the companies who
Yeah.
are doing this,
Yeah,
who are recycling, and yeah, it's important to me.
it's building that you're
Yeah.
interested in your supply chain, and you're building that
Yeah.
as well for your own practice. So who is the, you know, we can give a shout out to them because
So it's called the Knit Shop.
okay,
It's Scotland. Yeah.
nice, wicked. Okay, so we have another question from Georgiana, who said thanks for your presentation, and she says she's curious if there is any local lineage of fiber work and that you draw from, so any particular kind of, I guess, textile fiber technique that you draw from, and maybe where you might get inspiration from. So are there kind of any sort of local or traditional textile arts? Because, you know, looking at your style, it's quite graphic, you know, it's some of them, you know, they're not you know, they're not portraits, for example, they're quite graphic. So do you get any inspiration from sort of what you see around you? I know you mentioned in your piece, you know, the coat that, you know, was inspired from waste, the waste that you saw that was going to landfill. So what kind of other inspirations do you have?
So it's mostly pictures of the waste, because the waste, there are so many different textures and shapes. So what I tend to do is just enlarge the picture and go with the viewfinder and just find the bits I really like compositionally and just translate that bit into the things I'm doing.
Okay, so you're almost then creating the artworks yourself. It's something that you've seen that is inspiring you, and then you're actually, you know, using that as inspiration for composition, and then going from there, which is beautiful way to do it, rather than seeing something as though I'm going to go and use this particular tradition.
Well, worth to mention, sometimes I do have like I found like a perfect composition, but when I start making things, I was just like, okay, let's just move a little bit there, a little bit that, and it comes out actually like even more beautiful than the plan which I had. So yeah, it's about exploring and just trying and trusting yourself, trusting the process.
Yeah.
And if something doesn't, like, I think if something doesn't go according to the plan, I can always put it in the water and redo it again
and change it.
Yeah.
I think that's really pretty, and I think that's really sort of beautiful that, you know, the process that you use can do it. And I love that, you know, when you had the water and you were showing us like how much it disintegrates, and it, you know, I think that is a fascinating thing about, you know, using these glues and using these natural binders. You've got I don't know if you have any around you, but you had a piece which is like a mannequin head, sort of like a hat.
Yep. I have it.
I love that from your video, and because it's so 3D, I think it'd be so nice to show.
So it's a mannequin head. It was a collaboration with the local knit designer. Her name is Jo Amy. And what happened? So she gave me her weight and she said, Sandra, I need mannequin head. Like to be able to display her pieces at the trade shows and things like that. So now it's a mannequin head.
And does she use them in her studio or shop or stands, or?
Yeah, she used at the trade shows, at the market, taking pictures, and yeah. And what also is great, like the whole head, if you dip it in the water, the glue dissolves, and you can. I made a mold out of old paper, So you can always recover it with another color or things like that. So yeah.
I think it's so fascinating. Marta, who asked a question before about the glue or the binder that you use, is it a plant-based cellulose? And I think that goes into being more specific, but we had that conversation about using plant-based versus animal-based sources, so things like gelatin, and kind of where do you I guess stand on which one to use, or which do you find sort of the most accessible, maybe, as a resource?
So the most accessible is absolutely with the plant, which is vegan. My glue is vegan, and you can actually eat it. Like there will be no harm if you like lick the glue and things like that. And this glue, actually, I can guarantee that right now anyone can make this glue at their homes.
Yeah,
it's like everyone has those materials in their homes. It's very accessible. It's very cheap to make. Yeah.
And it's just about exploring it and trying it yourself. And like you say, I mean, I've been many years working with biopolymers, and so it's one of those things that, like you said, you're making glues instead of cooking your soup. You get really good at this stirring action. That's really good. We have like a couple of maybe like 5 minutes left, so I don't know if you want to add anything, or if anyone from the team has any questions, I'll just see if I've missed any questions there. No, I think I've got that one. So what's coming up next then? So you've got the exhibition, and you've got the collaboration. What are you thinking about in terms of like what would be your like 5-year plan? Can I ask you that?
Yes,
like an
absolutely.
enterprise mentor. What's your 5-year plan for your business?
So in my heart, I would love to open a sustainably orientated art gallery. This is something, what is I think leading me forward, and yeah, and it's yes.
And I think that's a great answer. I think that's a great goal. We've actually had a question from Anna, who's one of my team members in Spain. She said, what is the biggest challenge that you face in terms of like the process and that you do?
Okay, so the biggest challenge is that when you cook the glue, there is a short period of time in which you need to use this glue. So you have perhaps 20 minutes to make it into a shape or a design. Otherwise, it won't work.
Okay.
If it comes to the process, if it comes to the business, it's how to market the product, because this is something what haven't been done before, and you need to find creative ways to like really explain the all like features of the product and things like that. So yeah.
That's a great answer, and I love that you've addressed both sides, the physical process as well as the business process. We have and I think Christiana and myself as well, we're both sort of like, oh, an art gallery, like this sounds super interesting. we want to get in there, and we can already see it, large pieces, be fantastic. Actually, that's my last question, promise. After this, scale, how big a scale? What's like, because you create like sort of like smaller pieces, so what's the kind of biggest thing you created or would like to create?
I would like to create a 2 meter by 1.5 meters big pieces, but for that I need I have a shredding machine, because for now I shred all the waste with my hands. It's a time-consuming process. So yeah, as soon as the machine is ready to go, I just want to go and see how as big as I can, because if it's a big, it can really create an impact in the room.
Yeah. definitely. Oh, that's
Yeah.
exciting. I really look forward to seeing it. And thank you so much, Sandra, for joining us. It's been, I'm really, really excited to see like what you're going to do next. And obviously everyone's going to be going through Instagram and going, okay, where are the answers for that? Where's this next project coming up? Where can I
very
go?
welcome.
Everyone go to Scotland.
Well, thank you very much for having me.
No, it's
Pleasure.
been a real pleasure. Oh, thank you
Thank
so
you.
much. We will be having a short break, so maybe like 5 minutes or so. If you still want to ask any questions, or if you want to, you know, kind of connect to Sandra, obviously contact her on like Instagram, website, emails. We can share that. And if you, yeah, like I said, have any further questions, Sandra, I think you're going to be joining us for a little bit more, so you know you can see some of the other speakers who are coming up, who I think you're going to love also. We'll just go to break now, and I'll put on some music to enjoy. We've created a playlist this year for the speakers kind of choices of music, so still some more to add in the next couple of weeks, and the team as well, so it will be a nice variation. So I'll be sharing the link to the this year's Spotify playlist too, and see you all, let's say, should we come back at just before 11, I'd say, starting at 11. Perfect.
Well, it is true love, it ain't easy. No, no, no. True love, it ain't easy. True love, it ain't easy. It ain't easy. A verdade mostra que o amor nos olhos da criança. A verdade mostra que o amor nos olhos da criança é muito mais fiel e generoso. A verdade mostra que o amor nos olhos
Charlie.
da criança a verdade mostra que o amor nos olhos da criança a verdade mostra que o amor nos olhos da criança fiel e generoso. É muito mais fiel, impetuoso. É que, mesmo que, com todo o poder da criança, fiel, generosa, impetuosa, mesmo com todo o poder da criança, se não for a mãe a conceber liberdade, a instruir o limite que o poder permite, o poder sobre o poder, a mãe e o filho. Muito, muito, muito mais. A verdade mostra que o amor nos olhos da criança é muito mais fiel e generoso. Impetuoso. A verdade mostra que o amor.
Welcome back, everyone. Hope that was a good comfort break for everyone. And maybe you've also managed to get a glass of water or a cup of coffee or tea or, you know, just a nice tasty snack. We have got some really special speakers coming up now. Two speakers who are Romy and Atto from the Dyer studio joining us. Welcome. Hi. I'll just turn on my camera. There we go. Left that off. Oh, it's so lovely to see you both. And it's I love you know, we discuss so much. It's like, how do you show what you do, your work, and you have your beautiful background behind you of some of your pieces. So that's fantastic.
Thank you.
Yeah. Are you gonna try and share your screen, or Christiana, are you gonna go for it?
Yeah, we make a little presentation and go to see a couple of photos so that we can talk about our activity, about natural dyeing. We are Romiato from the Dyer House. It's a school on natural dyes. We are very up north, living in the mountains in a very little village. It's only 10 houses. We are very near to Basque Country, 1 hour approx to coast. And we came here about 7 years ago to create a school. So that's our life. It has become a lifestyle. It's our work. It's our project, but we live it as a lifestyle. When people ask you, what's your work? What are you working on? Is we are living on dyeing. I feel very identified with my partner when she said that when you wake up, you just feel color or your creativity all around. And when you go and travel and you go to work, to have a walk everything smells to color. No? So we have a school on different techniques, because natural dyeing, it's about giving color to textiles, but also to creating designs. And well, today we are not going to talk so much about design itself, but about the care of design, which is the theme of this marvelous meeting event. So thank you very much to give us the opportunity to be here with us, so many interesting people. So first of all, thanks to you. You're a marvelous team. Thanks a lot for making things so easy. Today we would like to talk about the care of natural world and the care of legacy, which is very important. There are two issues very important for us, because we always talk about sustainability on natural dyeing, because dyeing with natural dyes does not necessarily mean to be sustainable, and this is something that we are going to address today, because there are like two different routes, like dyeing just for an historical reason or for an ethnographic reason, and make it for commercial, or let's say consuming purpose. So we are not recreating history that marvelous and must exist. We love history. It's one of our main knowledge incomes, but we are working on sustainability to make natural dyeing possible as an alternative to chemical dyes, and we will talking about that. So if you think it's okay, we go with the presentation and then we keep on talking.
Yeah, that's great. Wonderful. Thank you so much for the introduction. And I think it's like, really good, in terms of the considering care in our natural world and how we do it in different ways. Yeah, I'm really looking forward to seeing your presentation. I think everyone else is too.
Okay, here we go. Can you see it?
Yeah, we can. Yeah, that's perfect.
Okay, so here we are in our website. We have prepared a couple of photos to let you know about our school. We are, as I was telling you, we are living in the mountains. It's a valley called Soba Valley. It's very rich in biodiversity, and that for harvesting is very important. This area is cattle area, so there is a lot of activity on that sense, and we are rediscovering this place for their natural colors. So when we walk around this area, we don't just go on the road. We are stopping every other meter to check out what plants and what colors can you get from nature, from a sustainable way. I choose this photo because on natural dyeing is one of the most important things is water. It's one of the most important sustainable issues to address, because dyeing needs water and heat. And as we know, water and heat, so meaning energy, are two of the most important issues to address on sustainability. So we will talk in a little bit about this water important. And this is a view from our school. So we are in the very corner of the town. This is this week, in fact, because now at this moment it's snowing. So this is like the real image of how it looks to come into our school. This is now again the water from the fall nearby our town. We come here to pick up water for dyeing, and also water from the snow, because this water is very clean, even cleaner than rain. For clear and unpolluted dyes, you need clear and unpolluted water. If you don't have that, of course, you will have problems, because those are chemicals, those pollutants will go to your hands and will get in contact with your skin as a dyer, but also they will get into the textile, and consumer will get those chemicals. So that's why it's so important. It's not just landscape. We're putting these photos because it's snowing here when it's melting. It gives you very pure water, and it goes very fast to see. We are only 1 hour from the sea. I was saying before. So now when the sun is coming, all this snow is melting and going to the sea, and nobody is taking advantage of it. This is underground water. They use it for cattle, and for us it's very good water for certain uses. Sometimes it's rich on certain natural metals, minerals, so they use certain waters for certain colors. So that's the chemistry of nature, we could say. Yeah, well, you have an idea where we are, but especially wanted to highlight the importance of water in our activity, right? As I was saying, we live the mountain as a lifestyle, and this is our little garden where we grow vegetables and, of course, dye plants. We have it's only less than 400 meters, but we have more than 300 species concentrated in here. And when we arrived in here 7 years ago, it was like this, yeah, like the green behind, and we converted in a botanic garden in just a couple of years. Yeah, this is very important for us because we are using organic vegetable and fertilizers. We are using, this is Symphytum officinale, which is a plant which is very rich for very good for enrich the soil. So all our dyeing plants are having this. They give very good because they grow very fast and very healthy because of the soil fertility. So we are harvesting those leaves that we grow in the garden, and those leaves are our fertilizers. So this is the result. Poor. What we found, it was very poor land, and just in a couple of years, it smells really good. It's very full of life. These are some pictures about, well, our slow life, all vegetables and so on, but most of them are, you can use them for dyeing. For example, this is very good example for Wednesday, because this is the part you eat, but then normally you throw away to compost the leaves. But in natural dyeing, you don't throw away almost anything. Compost goes after you use this material, these leaves, for dyeing. So you make longer life of biomass, and then you convert it to compost, but not in this state, because it's rich of colorants, and this is very, very important issue to address for sustainability. Many of the residues that you normally throw away in agriculture, we propose to use them for natural dye industry, and of course at a domestic level. But this would be very, very important strategy to follow in order not to need to grow so huge amounts of tons of natural dyes to substitute chemical dyes. It's a matter of looking into the industrial waste, because there are lots of examples of natural dyes. For example, the residues of wine and the residues that you get from onion and from granite and from so many plants that give food, but they also give colorant and natural dye. For example, carrots, you eat the part which is underground, but the leaves, they are colorants. Yeah, while here smelling, because it's so pleasant, and well, our cats, that they had become like dyers with the time. They are always with us. So now I'm going to show you. Can you see it correctly?
Yeah. It's
okay.
perfect.
Now I'm going to show you some pictures about our school, and I'm going to talk some sustainable issues while I'm showing you our project. Yeah, well, it's for cleaning your shoes before getting in. We have converted the house into a dining house, into a school, but into a dining house. As it was used to be done centuries ago, when people used to live, used to work in the same house that they were living, and we are recreating that style. That's why the name of the Dyer's house, because we are integrating a living house, the home, and your working place. This is the room, the apothecary. It looks like pharmacy, because we like to organize all our dye stuffs in a very good sense. In this case, for example, they are organized according to colors, so that when you are going to create a color, you can to a certain place, a specific place where you can choose different colors, and all the dye stuff are well protected, because if these bottles are not filled, it remains oxygen inside, and then oxidates the materials. So it's very, very important for sustainability to take care of your materials. Otherwise, and it happens to many dyers, that they are forced to throw away a lot of their materials, because they get rotten and they get oxidized, and you must keep all your dye stuff for economical reason, but also for a sustainable reason. Later on, we will be talking about color palettes. This is a nest that we use typically for going to harvest. And these are the weapons of natural dyers, typical weapons that we use for moving all the fibers. And of course, a lot of pots and different utensils, in this case for measuring the weight and the temperature and the pH of the liquids, because this is a chemistry art. This is a science, of course. It's a craft, it's an art, but before everything, it's a science, because it's natural dyeing is based on physical and chemical principles. Here we are using only natural and non-toxic mordants. This is something that for people who don't know much about natural dyeing, this is very important to talk about, because if you want to fix the color into the fiber, you need a mordant, which is a substance that you fix into the fiber before you put the color. If you put the color just like that, it goes away when you wash it, when you expose it to light. So that's why most of the dyes, natural dyes, certain dyes like indigo, they don't need a mordant to be fixed, but most of natural dyes need mordants. And this is the main investigation we are making in the dye house, because the historical natural dyeing since Middle East until the first industrial revolution is full of toxic mordants, and that's a great issue for to address sustainability. And that there are very good reasons to use those toxic mordants, because they give very good colors and they fix very well the colors, and so it's very difficult to investigate possible alternatives to fix color in a natural way, in a sustainable way, in a healthy way, and also in such a way that you can get all those mordants from nature. And that's what we are trying to do. Most of these substance, we bought them already made nowadays in natural dyeing, but historically they were made by hand by professionals. For example, burning algae from the sea in a slow burning, covering these slow fire, and they were converting certain plants, rich of substance that become alkaline when they burn slowly. So we are recovering the art of obtaining chemicals, natural chemicals from nature, and that's one of the issues to address for the future of natural dyeing. That's why we are talking about regenerative dyeing, because we must change the way we've been dyeing in a natural way during the last centuries, because natural dyeing became very, 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 very toxic, right? Yeah, well, all instruments that we use and old pots that we use. Sorry if you hear a klaxon, but here when as we live so far away from civilization, people come to sell vegetables and milk and so on, and they come with their cars, and they are like beep beep. So sorry, please, if you are if they are disturbing.
That's wonderful. It's part of the rural life.
It's just like that. So a couple of pictures of our school, so that you have an idea of how it looks, and of course, all full of pots and dirty. We are quite clean, but natural dyeing is quite dirty work activity. So we love that texture. For example, this is also a circular idea, because we are recovering this kind of recipients from industry because they don't use it anymore because it has no more tannins to give color and give taste to wine, and they throw it away, or they sell it very cheap, or they sell it for decoration and so on. And we use these kind of recipients for dyeing. It's wonderful. Whenever you keep it full of water, because if there's no more liquid inside, it breaks and you have to throw it away. Yeah, well, this was a little showroom in our school where we were selling for many years all things from our shops. Nowadays, we don't have shops anymore. We only work on training, and we also do consulting and coaching and assessment, but we don't sell anymore. And we help people to sell, but nowadays we are focusing on investigating a sustainable model for the future of sustainable textiles. Well, this is a chill out that we have in our garden, and always we come here with our students to have a break, or even sometimes have the lesson when the sun is sunny. And yeah, well, you have an idea about the place we are. And now I want to show you the most important thing, which is the process that we are implementing. Basically, the most important part is the botany. You can be natural dyer, and you can go to shop and buy the powder or buy the extract. The extract is like the concentrated powder. One thing is when you take the plant and you smash it or put it in powder, and another is when you boil it in water and then you evaporate the water, and then it remains a concentrated dye. That's the extract. So it's the great difference between powder and extract, right? So here we are at the beginning of the process where we are cultivating hundreds of different kinds of dyeing plants, in this case, from food, as I told before. This is the red plant. This is mother, one of the most important plants in the history of economical history of natural dyeing, right? We could be talking like hours only about this red root, which give a color to so many fibers, and historically it was very, very important for many nations. The Spanish black, it was dyed precisely with this red, right? These are tannins, right? Because metallic mordants don't have affinity to cotton. They are very difficult to fix to cotton. It's not the case with wool, but in the case of cotton, you need this substance, which is called tannin. You know, when you drink a little bit of wine and it dries a little bit on your mouth, it has that feeling, like a sharp feeling. Okay, that is created, it has produced by this substance, and dyers, we are kind of expert on identifying on nature all sorts of natural tannins, right? And here, for example, when a neighbor cut their trees, and before they burn it, we go and pick it up because it's gold or silver, or you know, it's sometimes they are throwing away like very, very rich materials. Well, I will be passing many. Well, in this case we are using the bark. Sometimes you use the fruits. Sometimes you use the leaves or the flowers. For this, for example, this is not, in this case, it's not a dyeing plant, although in this family euphorbia. There are some dying plants, but in this case, is these animals that go under underground and eats every single root. Those little country rats. So this plant keeps them away. So it's also a way that we have to not use any chemical at all, not for insects, not for animals, not for fertilizing. All the stuff we use in our garden is coming from the garden itself. Of course, the seeds come from abroad because there was nothing, right? This is also very rich on tannin, and this was the European blue, the wood. Very important. It's one of the greatest natural dyes in the world. If you like to learn about natural dyes, start learning about wood and madder, and welt, which is the plant for the yellow, the Spanish flag. Sorry, because of the mention of the flag, but it's like that. Is history, right? Here a lot of more examples. This is sumac, which is used for, tannins. They are used to convert the skin into leather. The leather is make like that way, using tannins that make this tannate. It's called. So this plant historically was used for this use, but also for dyeing. I will pass like a couple of photos that you can have an idea about the biodiversity that we can have in only a couple of square meters. And we have plenty of dyes, more than we can even use. And we are somehow demonstrating that you can create a dye house completely self-sufficient, using the water from nature, the plants from nature, and everything you need to dye just from your surround, right? Well, that's a lot. I will go to the climax of the presentation, which are the colors that we get. Here, for example, we are making rapid testing on paper. This is very useful because you have an idea where you will get on fabric, and this is very fast to do. So you can have a glance before you do the whole work. These are examples on wool about how deep colors you can get. Many people says that no, natural dyes, they are very soft colors. They go away, and that's because they need the knowledge of chemistry, of dyeing chemistry, to achieve a very varied color palette, because natural dyes, if you manage them properly, you can achieve a huge amount, not using any toxic substance or heavy metal, and you can fix the color very well. We do a lot of tests. That's one of the things that we teach in our school. Here is Romy preparing. Oh, sorry. Here is Romy preparing the panel sample. This is in blue from indigo. I will show you another panel here. For example, as you see, we organize colors according the samples according to colors. And then this is very useful because when you have a client, the client chooses a certain color, and then you have the recipe. It has a code, and then you go to your book and you have the recipe for every single color, so you can make a match, a perfect match for any color you want. And that's the professional way of natural dyeing. It's not like improvising, you know, it's quite a scientific process, and you can make it work on the direction you want. This is the important thing, that you control the results and the results don't control you. This is the world. I was talking about the yellow, the Spanish flag. That's the world plant. In Spanish, it's called Walda. That's why it's called, the flag is called the Rojiwalda in Spanish. I like to share this little anecdote. Have a look to these colors, please. Have a look to these colors on silk. It's just like that. That's natural dyeing. You can achieve really pure colors, really vibrant colors. Also, soft colors are beautiful. We like to dress. If you see, I'm always, Romy too, we are always dressing in very light. It's something that we like. And then we have learned to book binding, to present our samples in a professional way. And we do, you know, recycling. This is circular because those woods were thrown away, and we convert them into machinery for making our own book binding, and we recycle all the fibers and dye them ourselves, and all recycle from the beginning till the end. And also you can make cotton paper from the rest that we get from dyeing. You know, there's a lot of cotton when you cut, and then you can make a cotton paper for making this book binding, and it's wonderful. So it's one more important thing about this professional approach that achieve, and this is the last one, such beautiful colors. This is with indigo, couple of colors so that you can enjoy a little bit more. Now, feel free to ask us what you want, what you feel. And we love to talk about sustainability. So please, this is eco-printing, using the direct printing of the leaves. This is another technique which is wonderful. It's very organic. And we are not using any toxic substance, and all the leaves that fall to the floor, you just pick them up and you create wonderful designs, and using responsible mordants and responsible dye stuff. So I hope you enjoyed the presentation.
Oh my goodness. It's amazing to see how much you can do. I'm getting a tiny bit of an echo, so I don't know where it's coming from, but it's really, thank you so much for presenting it. And what I loved, it was really like the full cycle. You know, you really could see like where you were starting from. And I think when we're talking about the natural world, the picking up on all the key points, you really showed us your world, your environment, how it not just impacts you, but how it influences you, and how you utilize like the resources in a very caring and careful way. You know, I had no idea and wasn't even thinking about the snow, but the fact that you could use that as resource, then store it, you know, as well as water, and then utilize that in your process. You know, what a wonderful way to kind of, you know, connect with your environment, and the colors as well, just in terms of seeing what something looks like as a plant and versus the color it can become. And I think one of my favorite things you saying was you know, when you picked out and said you don't let it control you, you know, you can control the color, and that is down to so much planning. it must have taken you so long to get, you know, to get to this stage, and so much passion, you know, to get to this stage.
Well, when we started, it was by accident. We first of all, we were living in the city. We never thought to have this lifestyle. Me, well, a little bit because I was botanic lover, but Romina was like citizen, you know. and her family is so surprised about how she has adopted so powerfully the countryside lifestyle. No? So we started by accident talking with a support who talk us about the problem they have with the wool. That they were throwing away the wool, and we arrived home that day, and we said, "Hey, we must do something." And that day, yes, because of casual meeting with a shepherd, we decided to devote our lives to natural fibers, and we started like that. So we started to we learned to spin and to wave, and finally, it was a must-have.
It felt natural, like it felt like this is what you almost like that like a release of a moment where you can say, okay, this is what I was meant to do, this is where I was meant to be. So many things like aligning so that you could actually say, this is what I want. But then it also, you know, and just in terms of project, you know, you said what, you 7-8 years just building it from the stage of where you were being, you know, even I'm thinking about getting the seeds for the plants and growing the plants. And when you mentioned about the, you know, plants as a way of protection for the other plants from other animals, as opposed to using pesticides and fertilizers and traps and all sorts of other things, which are very contrary to living and working with the natural world. That's fascinating. I mean, how did that also come about? You know, just did you do lots of research about what plants you might need or what things you could do to protect, you know, the golden crop?
Yeah. There we must talk about legacy, because natural dyeing was an art until the fine arts were invented, were defined. Until Middle Age, natural dyeing was very sustainable in the small communities, not in big civilizations, because they exploited natural resources in every field, not only in dyeing, in every field, in a huge manner. So many species were almost about to disappear because they were overexploited. And there are many cases in the history of dyeing, of natural dyeing, of species, lichens, mollusks, and trees like Brazil wood, sandalwood, and quebrach, and many other plants and lichens like orchil, and that they were almost eliminated from planet because they were overexploited. But that was happening in big civilizations because they got industry all along the Mediterranean with the real purple. So this issue for us is very important to address, because if we want to substitute chemical dyes by natural dyes, we cannot make it like they are trying to substitute petrol by biofuels. Because then you create a new problem when you are trying to solve another problem. So the matter here is, the point here is to create a new model for dyeing that does not need to exploit nature. You can harvest in a sustainable way.
Yeah.
And we have lots of experience in that area, and we teach our students to how to create positive impact into nature when you are harvesting, because when you take something from nature and you don't give anything back, nature suffer. But when you give back things to nature, nature grows and give you more products. So it's not true when people say that harvesting is always creating an impact, because you can harvest creating positive impacts. For example, spreading seeds.
Is one of those things that I've heard, from so many different people in different industries who are working with nature, that if you harvest, with thought, with care, it actually can be more beneficial. There is a great, it's a book by Robin Wall Kimmerer, Braiding Sweetgrass, and when she discusses this moment of learning from someone else who is actually teaching her how to harvest, is that not taking the first plant that you see, leaving that when you're going for like natural forest foraging and harvesting. And it's the same kind of mentality, don't completely take away everything, destroy everything. See, observe how it's growing, what, plants can work with one another, how they can protect one another and grow and use each other's scaffold to help grow, let alone, harvesting too much so that nothing is left. And I think that for me, when you mentioned about the agricultural waste, and because you're so rural as well, and even with the klaxon, thinking about the people who wanting to sell stuff and being in that environment, if people and people do, they discuss about what maybe what they need. They say, oh, I need this size top, or this size this or that. I need someone who's got a carpentry skill. If we advertised for resources that we needed like that, and we said, to our local farmers, we said to our, even if you're in a city and you in a school or a university, and you said, I need someone who's got 1 kilo of this, having that communication and the form and the forums and the spaces to say, I might need this resource, are you getting rid of it, is such a different way of thinking, and being kind of open to maybe suggestions if it's not exactly what you were looking for. It can be incredible to kind of change the way we think and use resources. I want to ask you, I know you've got you were going to like switch and show us some sample books, but I did have a kind of another question about the sort of mordants and also the barrels, but we can look at those samples first, and then maybe I can ask those you can answer them in the chat. Yeah, do you want to show some samples from the phone, from the top down view?
Oh yeah.
The time?
Oh well, we can,
if you want, however you want.
We can go with the traditional way.
Yeah, we can go with the traditional way, because I think everyone will be really quite interested to see them sort of in scale as well. And this is the eco-printing. Is it with things like eucalyptus and
all leaves from the garden? Yeah. And sometimes we pick up them when we travel and we see some interesting plants. Yeah. And we pick them up, and then we dry and we preserve them. Yeah. Sometimes we use them fresh, and sometimes we use them already dried.
Yeah. And how because I know you mentioned about categorizing your studio sort of like via colors, and how do you, because I imagine if you've got found things, you must have so many small jars, and keeping them in storage. That's such a key thing for what you do. to have it categorized in a system that is accessible.
Yeah, exactly. In ecoprint, you can categorize because every species has certain principles, dyeing principles. So they behave normally more or less the same, but it depends on when you harvest that plant, in what time period of the year, at what time of the day, because the plant is alive, the plant is moving.
And you must note absolutely everything.
You must note, you must register all the information in order to identify what are the factors that are influencing in the results. Sometimes it's the heat. It's the climate. Sometimes it didn't rain and the color already changed. Sometimes it's the fertilizer. Sometimes it's the age of the plant. Sometimes
it's like what you mentioned about being, it's the science. It's like you are what I would call like you have a laboratory book, it's not just like a sketchbook and you're recording certain like things like visually. You're having a laboratory book and being able to really note down the recipes.
Exactly.
All the factors.
Exactly. We call them master sheet. And in that technical sheet, we register until 200 types of information in order to be able to match a result that you have previously achieved. And this is the most amazing and the most entertaining part of this art, to discover the functioning of nature.
I feel bad you're standing up and showing us. We've seen so many beautiful. They're so beautiful, though. I could look at them all day. Do we have any questions from the audience?
Zoe, can I just jump in just quickly here, just to say that because Romina doesn't speak English, if anybody, I can help also with consecutive translation if necessary. So, Romina, estaba comentando que como no hablas inglés, si alguien quiere hacerte una pregunta, puedo hacer la traducción consecutiva.
Perfecto, genial.
So, anybody wants to jump in?
I must say that Romina, I should have started saying that Romina is the responsible of this history, this crazy history. She's a textile designer and she has the textile in her blood since she was a child, because her mother was a great textile artist and crafter. Wow. And I'm agroecologist, ecological economist, nothing to do with textiles. and she's very responsible me to start, picking flowers in the countryside, and little by little I became Dyer as her. But please, you can ask what you want.
And I think also that because one of the things you mentioned, and I guess it contrasts, you see it so much through your process, but this sort of slower sort of lifestyle, and you mentioned the lifestyle is so different, but also, let's say contrasting to Sandra, who spoke before, like she has a separate studio, whereas yours is very much together, like living in the studio with it, in the house. But how do you, kind of, do you ever find that you need to get away from the studio, that you ever need to, or is it just as easy as I go for a walk into the countryside?
For us, it's crazy. Sometimes neighbors think that we have dirt because sometimes we don't go out in 1 month.
Yeah.
Natural dyeing is but very much like that. When you get into the laboratory, you go crazy because there are so many factors, so many miracles happening there. That especially I didn't show, but I have presentation only about indigo, and its fermentation process is completely different that we have shown. And it's alive. It's like taking care of a little kid, you know. Sometimes you go crazy. You cannot go even to eat because it's demanding your attention, you know? And that's a quite reality for many natural dyers.
We've had a question from Abigail Doan, I believe that's how to pronounce your name. Do the archived dye materials change their intensity over time? So kind of time as an impact on the natural dye colors, whether they're in your out on the wall versus, let's say, in your books. So do they change their intensity? And is there a, say, particular lifespan? So I'm thinking, if you've dyed a cotton with madder, does it last like several years? Is it more like a decade? And maybe more particularly, she says the botanical materials. So which I think would be the majority of them, or if not all of them.
That's the main issue of professional dyeing, to control the quality of your product, of your dye. And for that, you need making tests. And normally at the beginning, those tests are awful. They tell you that you are not doing things right. And you must study, and you must change your recipes, and you must manage temperature, the factors we call them, temperature, pH is very important. The solubility of every single dye is different, so the solubility is the most important thing to consider for a powerful color, because the plant has hundreds of chemicals, principles. So they, depending on their solubility and the liquid you use to make them soluble, and the temperature and the time you use for making that extraction, because the color is there. Of course, if the plant is good quality, but you must be able to, first of all, to extract the perfect combination of principles from every single plant to make a good liquor. And that liquor, that dye bath, is the key, but it's just the beginning, because you must use adequate temperature and times.
And the mordants that you mentioned, because that was something that I found was quite different from what I've seen before. So many people have talked about mordant, so like from the word morder, mordante, to like, it basically helps to bite the they say the mordant helps the color to bite onto the fabric, and vice versa. But I think that area of research is so fascinating in terms of using different options and finding different kinds of mordants and exploring those, because you could just focus on one plant, on one mordant and just change all the other factors, and you have hundreds of different shades and colors. So how can you tell us any of the mordants that you're using? I know traditionally there's like an alum mordant, and you can use others like iron and copper as changes. So are you using, what kind of other things are you looking at?
In sustainable natural dyeing, you are not supposed to use mordants like copper, like estaño.
I don't know what estaño is. I think
bichromate,
tin,
possibly.
Anna's looking up.
Okay.
Tin.
Okay.
You are not supposed to use those mordants, but in most of books for learning natural dye, you find those mordants. Most of the books from 50s till now, they are proposing those mordants. Only sustainable dyers are rethinking that way of working. One very important issue to address to walk towards sustainability on dyeing mordants is to substitute the mineral mordants for vegetal mordants. They are called biomordants.
Interesting.
And those plants have the capacity, they are bioaccumulators. They have the capacity to accumulate in their vegetable tissues those minerals that they get from the soil. And certain soils have a combination of minerals that certain plants are able to fix in their leaves. And many times, the moments when those leaves are more rich in those metals is when they fall to ground.
Interesting. So when they're ready to, you know, either be harvested or they're kind of in a process of, I guess, going from autumn to like a winter, you sort of, they're going to be dying. And it's because that's when you would have traditionally gone to harvest, you know, and so you have to think about the natural world's life cycles actually in order to exploit it or to utilize it and work with it properly.
Yeah.
That's so
Think about minery. Minery is a very controversial activity, human activity, because it hits the landscape. It creates big holes on the earth, and it takes away all the trees and pollutes the water. And so minery is like terrible, you know. And we must find, it's urgent that we work together to find alternatives to those minery substance, because we can get them, as legacy talk reminds us. They, before industry, before Middle Age, every single culture, and those are the proofs in the museums where you can
you can find
enjoy
these examples.
those textiles, and they were not using like chemicals as we know them since Middle Age onwards. They were using lichens, and they were using plants and algae and fungus and all kind of plants, and also earth, different kind of earths that have minerals properties
without having to go mining for these.
You don't need to do the mining. They are like on the surface. It's like alum. When it's a rock, you don't need to process. It's just like that. But most of the alum that you buy in the commerce, you think is natural, but it's natural, but it's not harmful, you know. But you produce it from certain rocks like bauxita or alunita. There are certain rocks that contains a lot of this metal aluminium, and they make chemical reactions that they have an impact.
That will have an impact later down. And I think what I see from your, you know, both of your works is this, like, that is the legacy of working within this environment, is that you're very much aware of what is impacting. Because if you were doing those processes, you know, in your workshop, you'd see it in the water stream, and it would impact probably the garden where you're growing the materials straight away. You would see that coming out. We do have one question, and then we'll go to break. But obviously we can stay online, you know, and message and write more and things. But Gerlinda Schuller, she says, Romina, it's nice to hear that your work is developed out of a family tradition. What other aspects of your work and their origins in cultural have their origins in cultural and family heritage? I know I can translate that on the spot, Cristina. I don't know if you want to translate it.
Sure. Romina, te voy a hacer ha llegado una pregunta para ti en español, que es, Romina, de Gerlinde, está muy bien saber que tu trabajo se ha desarrollado desde una tradición familiar. ¿Qué otros aspectos de tu trabajo tienen sus orígenes en el patrimonio cultural y familiar?
Bueno, en realidad lo que se ha desarrollado es el diseño, más que nada. Meterme con los tintes naturales y cuando nos metimos en este mundo, es como que empecé a descubrir una tradición que había en mi país también y que realmente cuando vivía ahí no lo conocía, ¿no? Bueno, sí lo conocí un poco.
Voy a traducir. So,
Vale,
so what Romina is saying, that really what the tradition, the family tradition, is more the designs than the actual dyes. And in fact, she discovered dyeing in her own country. It is de Argentina, ¿verdad?
Sí,
in Argentina, where there's a very long tradition of dyeing as well in Argentina, of dyes in Argentina.
Sí, cuando estaba en
el Museo del Traje.
En el Museo del Traje, yo trabajé en el Museo del Traje.
En Argentina?
No, en Madrid.
So she was working in the Costume Museum in Madrid, in Spain.
Sí. Entré a montar el museo y entonces tuve el acceso a todos esos trajes, a poder tocar.
So when she was working on the Costume Museum in Madrid, she had the opportunity to be able to touch all those costumes that she was setting up.
Y ahí me maravillé con todo este mundo.
And that's where she became fascinated with this world.
Sí, sí, la verdad es que conocer de cerca y bueno, siempre en la universidad es como que eran los tintes químicos lo que te enseñaban.
So she's saying that in the university, obviously, she was taught about chemical dyes.
Yeah.
En una materia precolombina teníamos una pincelada de tintes naturales, pero...
En el no sé cómo se dice, pre-Columbian?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Studies, they talked about natural dyes were very lightly touched upon.
Y cuando llegué, cuando tuve el conocimiento con los trajes del museo, es como que dije, hay otra
manera de...
es otra visión, ¿no? Es otra...
And it was, there was thanks to her contact with those costumes in the museum that she realized there was another way, another vision, another way of doing things.
Y ya
tuvimos que hacernos autodidactas.
Totalmente, porque fue muy complicado encontrar dónde estudiar.
And it was very hard to find where to study.
Y entonces fuimos a las raíces.
So we went back to the roots.
And I think that's just for timing, but also I think it's a really good way of kind of, again, sort of summing up, because it means that from the legacy and you know, Ato, you can translate that, but from the legacy that you had from your past, and also, you know, I guess you as well, Ato, like from your experiences with the agricultural sort of connections, that actually then leads you, you know, to saying, okay, well, I didn't have that, you know, in terms of my education, how can I then impact that onto the next generation, which is what you're doing now with the school.
Sí, hablando del legado, que gracias a eso ha tenido impacto sobre el desarrollo, sobre lo que estás haciendo ahora con la escuela.
Totalmente, sí, gracias a ese legado soy aquí.
Y es gracias a las carencias formativas, porque it's thanks to those formative lacks that our system has nowadays worldwide, that we became, how do you say, self-learners.
Yes,
Autodidacts.
Yeah.
And that's why we decided to become a school in order to help other people not to spend so many years to learn the basics, so that you can learn in a professional way, like quite rapidly. It takes several years, of course, but you know, not that long that if you would do it by yourself. But now we are like creating networks, because this is profession, a science to be reborn, and we need historians, we need a chemistry, physicians, all professions to collaborate and to rebuild this art, this science, and this industry, because it's called to substitute chemical dyes in about 20 years. So we are talking about one of the biggest industries in the world. But I will say it with a little mouth, because big companies will, when listen this, they see money, and you know, they want to make like big agriculture system for natural dyes, and that's a great error. We have a lot of colorants in many other places. For example, now, and last thing I say about this, it's very important, we are making a study about dyeing properties, natural dyeing properties of invading plants in the north of Spain, because they are burning with European money. They are burning those plants, and we are proposing with a list, with the studies, color studies, that please don't burn that material. Let enterprises, let people harvest those products, because in those invading plants are cosmetics, medicines, dyes, and so on. So we don't need to produce the product; it's
already there. I think that's a really good way to like finish, because I think it's that what are the next steps. And I will put in the chat Mabe Studio, who is a friend who I'm working with in Brazil, who does that. She did a study on using invasive Japanese knotweed. For the UK audience, if you know it, but using the dyes, the whole plant, creating all the dyes from it. But thank you so much. It's just been like a journey, and it's been really, really wonderful. We're running a tiny bit over time, so I think we will come back maybe just at 12, let's say 13 past, 14 past, and yes, any questions, please do stay on, do add in anything, any links, anything else you want to still touch upon, that would be really, really good in the chat. So I will put some music on, and I'll see you guys shortly. Thank you. Muchas gracias.
Gracias.
Thanks to you.
Muchas gracias.
Thanks, everybody.
Donnez-moi un peu d'eau froide, juste un peu d'eau froide, un peu d'eau froide. Donnez-moi un peu d'eau froide plutôt qu'une baignoire remplie de lait, pour me délasser des effets d'un voyage encapsulé. Pas besoin de luxe inutile pour apprécier la vue d'ici. Si vous saviez le ridicule d'un empire dans l'incendie. Donnez-moi, donnez-moi. Donnez-moi, donnez-moi. En allant de ces contrées stériles, je les laisserai se demandant qui était cette fille qui ne fit que passer. Ils se lasseront de même, ou bien la terre les avalera. Ils récolteront ce qu'ils sèment. Moi et mon eau froide ne seront plus là. Donnez-moi, donnez-moi. donnez-moi. Donnez-moi, donnez-moi. Donnez-moi, donnez-moi. Donnez-moi, donnez-moi. Un peu d'eau froide. Juste un peu d'eau froide. Un peu d'eau froide, yeah. Juste un peu d'eau froide. Juste un peu d'eau
Pistol shots ring out in a barroom night. Enter Betty Valentine from the upper hall. She sees a bartender and a pool of blood. Cries out, my God, they've killed them all. Here comes the story of Hurricane, the man the authorities came to pay for something that he never done. Put in a prison cell, but one time he could have been the champion of the world.
Hi everyone, we're back. Hope you had a very that was very probably like short comfort break, but yeah, I hope everyone is happy and still with us and excited and really kind of like, you know, invigorated with the speakers that we've been having so far, and this theme of, you know, really like caring for our natural world and what we leave behind, and, you know, how we feel about you know, the next steps that we can take within design, and how we can work with others as well to achieve that and share information is really kind of at the forefront. My alarm's just gone off. So we have our next and our last speaker of today, Marlene from Craftmade. I can't see you currently, but you have to give me a shout.
Hi. I'm here. You can't see me at all?
Oh, now I can. It's just come up. Okay. There you are. Hi. Look at you. Fantastic with your loom behind you.
Yes. Yes. Thank you so much for having us today. I'm representing Craftmade because Craftmade is made by myself and my husband, Alex Herbert. And yeah, we have a 1-year-old son, so he just went with him for a long walk, so I can represent.
Yeah.
And usually this is also the split jobs in our team. He thinks, I talk. And sometimes it's the other way around, but this is it today. I will make a short presentation and then move on to show you also a bit of the loom behind me. And thank you for a wonderful presentation. I can relate so much to what also the Dyer's house said about their way of living, also in this domestic setting with working and sleeping in the same place, and then having an eye on the ecosystem around us to see what can we do and what lessons can we learn.
Amazing.
So I will start the presentation. Let me see if I see it here. Why not? It all worked fine before.
Yeah, to everyone also that we've had some incredible technical you know, chats and meetings. So if you're joining us, you know, we worked really hard to try and get them. So fingers crossed we can But if not, Christiana, you have a backup, don't you? So
I don't know why it doesn't see my window. Maybe that I can select. I will try again.
not to worry.
Now I'm here, I hope.
Yay! Yes, we've got it. Perfect.
Yeah, so we are Craftmate Research and Lab based in the heart of Transylvania, which is in Romania. We have an NGO which is called Soxen, and Craftmate since 10 years. It's its main program of heritage preservation, documentation, but very much transmitting it on to others to get inspiration and use. Here I had a video that I can share the link afterwards about the importance of craft, made very well by a German school of craft. And this is what we do in Cincu, in our little 2,000 people village here in Transylvania. I was also born in the city. I was born in Bucharest, born and raised. And then 10 years ago, I came here to Cincu to get a rest, and I never left. This is the very short story. It felt really good to have a zoom out from the art world and from the cultural bureaucracy I was working in, Ministry of Culture, and so on before. Because I was wondering, yes, what do I do? What legacy do I leave behind? How can I change the world? Because it seemed clear to me that in a bureaucracy, the last thing you do is change for good. So I moved to Cincu and I started this idea and learning about craft. My initial idea was to do a network of artisans that work for designers in the city. But then I started researching because I'm an anthropologist actually, and I started to do research house by house in several regions in Romania to ask about craft skills and artisans on the ground, and learning about their materials and what they do. And I discovered that my dream was just that, a nice dream, but I had to start somewhere else by building an audience, by educating the market, by showing what is possible, by translating artisan language to designer language, by mediating between the rural and the urban, and there were so many jobs to do. So that's why our core now, after 10 years, our core words, let's say, is traditional knowledge, because we are get inspired by heritage techniques, by our own ancestry. We are Transylvanian Saxons, which I can tell more about later. But also slow design, ethnoecology. If you don't know, it's a fascinating a strand of anthropology which thinks that or works with the premise that your geographical surroundings determine the cultural heritage of one area, what materials you use, and then you develop the techniques that you use. And this is important today because we talk of sustainability, of localism, of turning around and see what resources you have. How can you live in one place, use those resources and regenerate them? And that's why ethnoecology is so important. And then, of course, we look at the whole thing as an ecosystem and think of ways how to regenerate. So we have been doing this kind of background research work. Like I said, we are minority now in Romania, Transylvanian Saxons. They have Germanic origins, coming from as up as Luxembourg, Belgium, as South Germany, Austria, coming to Transylvania initially in the 800 to guard the newly conquered territories of the Huns, of the Hungarians. and build an infrastructure in the same place. So these tribes, these families, young families, which were told that they get free land and free trade in this little place on earth, come here, migrate, and establish their own communities. And they're called Saxones. This was a general name of all these little tribes. And they also come with the tradition of craft guilds from those countries, which have been living and developing here until the 1800s, when they were prohibited. So there's a whole long tradition of, and the cultural landscape here where we live, of houses that look exactly like 500 years ago, or fortified churches, and all the heritage techniques, mostly in research, that have been preserved, not really in practice, but we are working on that now. So we have, in our process, we have gathered a collection of tools as old as 1780. We have collected rare old books that show techniques and information about culture and so on. And what is important for us is that we test the contemporary practicality of all ideas. So I work with textile and food. My husband Alex works with wood mostly, but also bones and stones. And for example, we look at things like, what if you take the tree from the forest? Now, instead of going to an industrial warehouse and buy a log to use in your carpentry, what if you go and you choose to get the tree out by a horse, working horse, not by tractor, so you don't destroy the ground in the forest. Then you use local workforce to split the logs, to cut the logs in with a slow saw, and then use how much you can use. For examples of an oak tree, because the industry uses a lot of oak tree. It has a curly core inside, so the industry uses about maybe 30% of a tree. And we managed to stretch this into almost 100%, because what things we have left, they go into the stove that we keep ourselves warm with. So from splitting planks to making wooden nails, all this ecosystem of using a tree with the utmost respect from the forest. It shows it's in the end even cheaper, with all the workforce involved, paid a fair wage. It's cheaper because you use the whole log than buying the planks, the beams, the nails, and everything else from the industry. This is a way of how we take all these old ideas, these old lessons, and we counter them to today's economy, and then we can say, okay, in these preconditions, of course, not everybody has an oak forest at their doorstep, but look at the materials around you and see what is there and what you can do. That's why when Alex, my husband, came to Craftmade 5 years ago, until then I mediated and I curated collections done with artisans and designers. And since 5 years, we specialized on workshops and how to get this knowledge further to the public, especially to the young public. And that being said, of universities and the talk with your first speaker, here is the same in the art, design, architecture university. There's very little stress on practical experience, on techniques of making. They use minimal techniques. They have a technician who does that and they feed the belief that a designer is dependent on an industry who does things for you. And what we do with this series of workshops, Craft Making the Future, is empower students or young artists to choose their own techniques, to work from home in a little studio, but to make world-class design, even like this. This is why we devised even a series of modules that we apply in our workshop. And the first one, Practical Observation and Archiving of Place, was a revelation collaboration with artist Abigail Dawn, environmental artist from New York. And we learned from she was an ongoing inspiration for us. We learned from her practice walking libraries, where she regards walking as an art form, and then observing the terrain around and archiving in your own through your own lens the shifts and the specificity of a terrain. We integrated this in a learning module because this is the first site-specific thing you do when you go somewhere and want to create something, be it a house or a product or an object, to see what is around you, what resources you can use, and then the other modules to integrate them in a whole ecosystem thinking, that you can do something really sustainable that will also regenerate the place behind you. So these are some a bit of atmosphere of our workshops in Chinku here, with also traditional textiles, with food. And this one was for an entrepreneurial school in Amsterdam, which we thought very nice to teach collaboration instead of competition, even if they're entrepreneurs. Yeah, you understand the spirit of the. So this is also a shout out if everybody, anybody is interested in a course or in a residency. We do this kind of tailored workshop that at the end you can choose your own way through the process of creation. I think I'm aware of the time, and I will just take you through some of our installation and exhibitions we had lately, both in object design and in restoration practices, because they're very tied together. And the last 3 years, we have been focusing a lot of time also on curatorial work. We curate together with colleague architect Elena Viziteu the central exhibition at the Romanian Creative Week. This is in Iași, Romania, a city almost at the border with Ukraine. And it's been a unique opportunity because in Romania this is the only craft-centered platform that shows each year the curatorial selection of craft, arts, design, architecture, because we wanted to show how the boundaries blur, not to take them apart as different arts, but how they come together with artists that make their own work with their hands, regardless of discipline, but united by very contemporary themes. And it was funny to hear about the invasive plants, because our exhibition this year will be very much about invasive plants and how actually, yes, they come and they are here for us for many different reasons. And it's crazy to be in a fight with them, and better to learn from them how this incredible technology that we cannot destroy. No, we hear about burning, about all these things, and you fight with a plant, and you just humanity go home. No, you don't win. And that's yeah. It was this the particular plant that also showed up around here in Patiens, glandulifera, which I'm not sure. I think it's not weed or not. It has these purple flowers. No.
Yeah, you might have to write out the name so we double check it. But I think that sounds familiar.
With
yeah.
these purple flowers that do seed pods when you touch them.
They're kind of like, but I think they might be called Buddleia here, but that might just be another name, another invasive plant.
Mm-hmm. And then it jumps 8 meters away, and one plant produces about 2,000 seeds. And yeah, why not be like that plant? No, we say to just spread the seeds. So this is more insight from our exhibition. Local artisans, international artists, and our curatorial work is also very invasive. For example, this Archive of the World, we called it, was made by my partner Alex, imagined together with Elena Visiteu, with the co-curator, to actually be like a home of these little seeds you see on the shelves, an archive of the world, like talking about what's our future, and how do we preserve it. And the whole construction is made in the most traditional way of building, no, with like knitted wood, but a bit Bauhaus, because it was also touching the Bauhaus subject with wood that has been bought from a department store, which is also the first time I think we use something like that. But also to show, to have inside this kind of portal, the 3 magic beans. It's the hole where you go in and you can transport yourself in a different world. And we imagined this world, what if it would be sustainable. And this was together with Abigail Dawn's work, like the entrance of the exhibition. So I leave with you this video afterwards, which is a video to show also more of Alex Herbert's work in the wood working workshop, which is now under transformation. So I will only show you my studio, where we also work together with Alex many times. So I have.
I think you might have to stop sharing just on the.
Oh, sorry, yes.
There we go. Perfect.
You see me now?
Yes.
So I just take a look around. I have 2 tiers in my studio. This is the upper one, which is textile, and then you have a down one with toys. This is also the reality of mom at work. And in a weird way, my son, when I work at the computer, he's all over my head. But when I weave, he can peacefully sit here and have a book. He's 1 year and 9 months. He can look into books and be with me when I don't know. I didn't decipher the mystery, probably the calmness or.
Yeah. You need to put your a laptop on the loom, so it looks like you're doing the weaving, but actually you're sending an email. play the noise of the loom.
Yeah. So I start with this display I also Alex made for my grandfather's tools. In my family, my grandfather has learned the trade of the shoemaker, but never practiced it. But he kept all his tools forever. The communists came in power, and he went on to the party school and learned politics after making shoes. But he kept and had a very great honor, and also making small works with his tools. So we had them here exhibited because it's such an inspirational panel. We do our own screen tags. I have a screen printing machine here where we do the tags if we do any product. And then I show you a Transylvanian Saxon table loom. It's made out of oak. I think the beauty of the weaving looms is that whatever culture you come, even if they do the warp on a fence, or if they have 3 sticks, or like a beautiful hand-carved weaving loom out of oak with tulips and whatnot, it does the same thing and it functions the same way. It's like an ancient computer, 1010, you have a matrix with the warp and the weft. And then inside this matrix, like in life, no, you go on and you can do whatever you want. For me, it was this big surprise of the freedom the weaving loom can give you in an artistic expression, and also the diversity, the anthropologic diversity of weaving, which you don't really need much for doing fabric. It's just some plants or some animals and some sticks and some rope, and there you are. So, but yeah. Along the time, we have all these sophisticated methods. What I use as a material, I will put this here, is 2 things: recycled materials, and I can show you a bit here on the weaving loom. That means from clothes, cut off, shredded in a snail technique that gets you the most surface on material. You make little threads, and then you can weave with whatever you have, from working jumpers to pantyhoses. Every little shred you can use on the loom, and you can give textiles a new life. Then on my last commission, I used a technique with very rough wool strands. It's woven, spun wool. And then I have here an example, just to mention this material. It's our dog hair. And I'm saying dog hair with thinking about maybe some of you know Nick Gant and Community 21. They did a material research on dog hair, and they found out that it's about 70 times more warm than the sheep wool. So whenever we comb our dog, I get some fluff and I store it, and I tried now to use this material to see where it takes me. Other than that, we have in Romania 2 types of sheep, one with long hair, which is quite sturdy, and one with short hair, which is very fluffy. Usually you combine both. And on my presentation, I had a sweater made for a designer from Bucharest with this local wool. I refuse to work with merino from everywhere else, New Zealand or far away, even if Romanian wool is not as good quality, as fine as merino wool. It has about 10 microns less. But we managed to prototype, to find a way to knit with my fingers, so I don't break the wool, to fortify it with a spun yarn and so on, and to make a prototype. And then I don't remember how many sweaters we made, because it was a huge success, proving that even if this wool is a bit scratchy, sometimes the whole story makes you forget this scratchiness and prefer to buy a sweater that is made with local resources, and for sure also with the right designer name on it. No, designers have now this responsibility to represent sustainable processes, and the sweater was a huge success.
That's incredible. Is it in terms of the wool and you know the sheep like farming? I mean, and it's got to be like a very big industry, but so the fibers don't get often used then locally. Is fiber more imported then, would you say, for the textile production?
Yes, it is a crazy thing. Romania has been in the 80s. It has a blooming wool industry. It has points of collecting wool, and it was a standard of fine quality wool textiles. Now it's Italy. But after the 90s, after the fall of communism, all these factories, because the logistics of it all has crashed, they all shut down. And now peasants, like in our village, there are about 15,000 sheep, I would say.
Wow.
And they sell at no price, usually less than it takes them to cut the wool from the sheep. They sell it to Turkey or to China, and then it comes back in the form of the spun wool. With added, of course, some plastic fibers. It's never 100%. You don't find this, almost don't find it in a normal department store. We still have a few carding machines from Second World War in Romania, and small family businesses carding wool and spinning it. And these are the places where we buy our yarn. And now we have, as of this year, we had 3 sheep. Now we have 5.
Oh, wow.
Rescuing also black sheep, because this is another crazy subject, that you don't find black wool in Romania, or to combine it with white and make a gray or a beige.
Yeah. Was it traditionally then used like black sheep wool? Because I'm thinking I've experienced sort of impacts like this myself when I've worked in Peru with alpaca farming, and so you know the breeding of different colors of alpacas would then affect the wools. Is it just something that hasn't been desirable, or is it is it coming back into fashion?
It's a superstition, actually. You don't keep more than 1 black sheep in the herd, and that 1 black sheep has a magical use. If you get sick, then you take a piece of wool from your black sheep and pee on it. Okay. And this makes like a perfect patch for a wound or for a chronic inflammation. And people are still doing this. Therefore, they are just killing all the little black sheep, and then you don't find the wool. So we this year we rescued 2 from being slaughtered at Easter, and we have now in spring. I can't wait just to see how it works with their wool to weave it, because what I do also threads myself, but I weave also with just the raw wool.
Yeah, nice.
There's so many possibilities also to make interesting materials with textures, with wool that it has been just cut off and washed and nothing else.
Yeah. Is it because you know, having done a little bit of research on this area before myself, the access to carding machines, and so this is where you essentially comb the fibers to kind of take out the kind of let's say plant fibers that may be caught in sheep or you know, alpaca or whatever, whichever animal's hair. Is it something that you know, that you would be, let's say, in the future be investing in, but also the government, you know, maybe like kind of listening to, say, you know, designers like yourselves, which are, you know, promoting this area of knowledge and work, and maybe there are opportunities to have, like, you know, I know there's examples of people having community carding machines and machines that say, let's say like in Italy, maybe they do with wine and, you know, processing the grapes. You have a carding machine that might be a community carding machine thing you can all kind of use. You know, is there government support that's helping you in a way build those legacies?
Well, not yet. It's been an ongoing conversation also for us, making this, pushing this forward, and also many other people on the ground working here, and it starts to be heard. Just the idea to redo this logistics of village collecting points for the wool, and then processing it at a fair price somewhere in Romania. It has been talked about lately, which is a huge progress from nothing. And I really hope the two families we are working with here in Transylvania are fairly young, which is also a good news, because usually artisans tend to be old, and you have to suck all in and then find a way to spread the word about their work and what they do and their techniques. So not everything is lost while they live, no. Not only learning from museum, but treasuring your keepers of the tradition. That was for us a good news, that these families are young and learn how to repair these two Second World War machines.
Yeah, because then you can collaborate together, and then you can build on that together. And you know, from your work with doing other exhibitions, and you know, the kind of collaborations as well, and you know, the workshops that you're doing, it's very much about this you know, kind of collaborative technique, and how can we actually, how can it not just be all of us in individual designer silos in one place, in, you know, in our own places, but actually how we can connect together. And you're big advocates for, you know, showing how it can be done. I mean, I find that like quite fascinating, and you know, I'm just wondering what you've got kind of coming up next in terms of that. Do you have, I mean, obviously you just, you know, you're now a young family, so you've got lots going on, but you know, are there kind of these sort of future goals that you want to achieve?
Yes, we definitely have one dream, which of course this since 2020 it has been slowing down a little bit, of a permanent school of craft. So not individual workshop which are commissioned, but a permanent school of craft which can support itself and have permanent students and maybe apprentices. We had this before. We also have been hosting residencies and what's the name of the Erasmus for young entrepreneurs. Also advising for worth projects. Actually, one is on in Romania with wool, and we worked with the ladies applying to get all this information that where they can use sustainable sources, and hopefully they will develop their worth project into something viable on the market. This is one thing we dream of, but working incrementally, let's say, step by step on it. We are expanding our workshops to host more people, and making also some changes to the house. And I think through the through the ongoing work also to make exhibition and to show what is possible, we feed back into the need of more people to make this change in their life and to go back to smaller means and more natural resources to start their projects.
I think that's so important because, you know, you mentioned like even, you know, learning from others and that whole sense of kind of archiving of place. I really loved, and that's sort of like through your own vision, but it's so important to interact with the natural world and to have a good legacy that we do have these opportunities to showcase online, but also, you know, locally and interact and have conversations with each other. And so I love the idea that you're kind of like thinking about, you know, permanent school, you know, and maybe have you even thought about modules going into, say, universities or schools that you can collaborate then with the another school, like an existing educational system? You know, have you guys had the opportunity to do that?
Yes, exactly. So we collaborated with the fashion and textile design department at the university in Cluj, which is a major university city in Romania.
Yeah.
And just in this idea for the students, for their students to learn in a 1 week hands-on experience techniques that will develop their work and how use natural materials and all these things, but again, it hasn't been programmed. It all depends on funding sometimes, and the public resources for it, and sometimes there are, sometimes they don't, and that's where I think in the last couple of crisis years things have been halting a little bit. Also according giving priority to health issues, to refugees, and so on, which is perfectly fair. We can still work in the background and do things that will help ecosystem.
But I think for me, I mean, and for you, like having the being able to say that actually caring about where your materials come from, where your products come from, how you interact with the natural world is actually caring for your health as well, you know, mental and physical. So it does connect. You know, we have the kind of main you know, the focuses of the pandemic, you know, which kind of redirect things, but having an overall view of what is important for us, you know, day to day, is really good. We've had a question actually from a couple of people, so I'll just mention it because I'm thinking about time. So one of the questions from Abigail says, in terms of cultural craft preservation and cultural outreach, what do you recommend to others to do in terms of working locally with organizations versus kind of like casting the net really wide to kind of like regional and national programs? You know, what's from your point of view, I mean, your experience?
I think it's a combination of in the perfect world, it's a combination of both, no? For example, we did our educational modules. They are very site specific. So starting with observation of and archiving of place, and then moving on to learning about local crafting culture and so on, and integrating into economic and natural ecosystem. But then again, you can do this everywhere in the world. We have a small recipe for applying both in India and in Asia, because at the end of it, you will find out the local specificity. So I think using a local identity in culture and heritage as an example, as an inspiration, and then drawing its importance at national, at international level, taking it out in the open, shouting about it to the world, is the perfect combination of the marriage of this.
Well, Abigail said, you know, that she's really thankful for this like kind of dialogue, because it's you know, progressing from like I guess throughout this whole session is, you know, where we get our inspiration and excitement to create, you know, new things, and then getting really stuck in, you know, with the Dyer's House to like with the research, you know, and collaboration and learning, but then also, you know, we've been able to discuss really kind of how, you know, you kind of maybe start interacting with the organizations and funding and partnering, you know, with others, so that it has these impacts within an educational institution that maybe already exists. We had another question about if you also work with hemp, and I don't know if hemp is grown in Romania. Does it are there?
It has been a long tradition, yes.
Okay.
Also gone with all the drugs legislation. Although Romania had a hemp breed with a very low THC level that cannot be mistaken by a drug, it still falls under the same law. But there are initiatives, and I'm thinking of 2 or 3 designers and 1 factory. They used to source their hemp in Ukraine, but now no, they don't. And there's an invaluable resource, a lady here in one of the neighboring village in Transylvania, who was the chief of the conservation department at the Met in New York for 20 years. But she's a Romanian, and she returned, and she made, apart from a museum of textile and the whole encyclopedia, also she was very passionate about natural dyes and their use for restoration of textile works, of old works, and she has started a workshop series and a hemp plantation. You can do this in certain, if you have a fence, if you have video cameras and so on, which is very expensive for big areas of land. But at an experimental level, and the whole process of it, how you used to extract the fiber from the hemp, she does this thing, and I'm really happy about that, because it was not in our resource that we can use at hand. I turned to wool, but hemp, of course. We have many hemp towels woven by my great-grandmother, which we are still in use in our bathroom, no problems, 100 years after.
But this is it, and even just, I think even just mentioning the products in a way, and the things you use around the house that are still in use, you know, it just shows you the reasons that we should still be utilizing the materials, and we should be investing in them and promoting the kind of crafts to make them. Like, I love that, you know, you've got your grandfather's tools on the wall as well, because I think that's so, you know, I think it shows that tradition, that kind of creative spark being like passed down. Are you, you know, with obviously there's so much going on like at the moment, but are you looking to kind of explore any particular, I don't know, even natural dyeing within your weaving, or like combining maybe plant and wool in your weaving? What are you I want to know what you're excited about next, I guess, with doing in your work.
Yes, well, I used natural dyes incidentally, let's say. I don't have a knowledge. I have a big interest, and I'm a fan, and I read the books, and we have old books telling about how Romanians used to dye and what local plants they used. And we worked with a French designer who collected randomly plants from our gardens and made them into dyes just by fermentation, just to see what kind of colors they come out if you don't have really a knowledge, but just want to do something. Or I use the walnuts in my garden to dye my husband's working shirts, because
yeah, because I'm thinking with carpentry, like you get all kinds of like, you know, like resins and glues and things on, so you need to
yeah, exactly. So I use these things that are around the house, but not I didn't make something of a professional product to to be out there just for our domestic fun. I'm a big fan of tea mixing, of tea gathering from our wild flora. And I work with plants. I have also woven with vine from grapes, and jute rope, and making together like woven structures. But it's, for me, it's really the story behind the object. So with every project I learned a new technique in weaving. I just started learning how to weave 2016 because I had a project in mind and I couldn't find a weaver, so that was out of necessity, and then I was addicted completely. And I learned by doing, and I still have so much to learn. But I think that's why weaving is such a great thing. You can learn all your life and discover new techniques and new plants, and every year there's something different. And you want to tell a story, and then the object takes the shape of the story for me, whether it is from plants, from mud, from stone, from bone, or whatever. Sorry, whatever is there. Yes.
I mean, thank you so much. I think this has been so fascinating, and like I said, I love like your kind of view of how we can collaborate, and making those connections, and sort of really putting yourself in the world. I think we've seen that from all of our like speakers today, just how you can put yourself in the natural world, and how you can be inspired and use it. And I particularly love what you said, Marlene, about the collaboration instead of competition with the students in Amsterdam, because I think that's just really what we sums up nicely what we need a bit more of, in the sweetest way. So yeah, I mean, really thank you. We're at time, but we'll stay on for a couple more minutes so we can share the links to the videos and any other websites and social media. And if you have any other questions, please do just put it in chat, and say hi, if you want to connect. So thank you so much from me and from everyone. I can see you've got another just one here from Marta Venus. Where are you? She said I started by trying to recover the craft techniques of linen and wool in north of Portugal. And she found came across hemp. She said, I really love your project, Craft Made. So she's got a project called Sensi Hemp, which she shared the link to. So that's really, really good. Oh, thank you so much. Thanks from Christina as well, in Spain. So I think we'll say thank you to everyone, and close up. And anyone else from the British guys who want to say? I love this. I love that it's got all our languages in there. That's really beautiful. Christina, do you want to say anything, or Christiana?
I can just say, I want to say that I thank you very much. It was super inspiring and interesting. And even though, I know Marlene's work so good, being based in Romania, I think it never stops impressing me. And I don't know, I just find out more nuances about this. So yeah, thank you so much. And maybe just, if I may, I would like to share that CraftMade will be hosting two residencies, two UK craft practitioners this spring. And following that, we will create an exhibition that speaks about these circular processes and the way we can relate to tradition to learn and to innovate about the sustainable future, which will come to the UK later this year. So, but we will share that on all our channels in due time. So I'm hoping to, I'm looking forward to the next sessions, and just to find out more about the subject. which is immensely interesting and rich. Thank you.
I'll just add that, and I'm just putting in the chat that I've got a link to the schedules coming up for the next sessions, which are happening on Tuesday, the 7th of February, same time. So that's 10 o'clock UK or 11 o'clock Central European time, and then so that's session 2, and then session 3 will be on the 21st. So we have not one session next week, but one the week after, and then we have another gap, and then we have another week after. So yeah, I'm looking forward to hopefully seeing some more of you there, and of course all our speakers are invited back for the next session, and yeah, we'll see you soon. We'll say goodbye.
Thank you. Bye.
Take care.
Bye.
Listening.
Bye.
Thank you so much.
Bye. Thank you so
Gracias.
much. Ciao.